Hey, hello. Welcome to Movie Club Monday. We are back to Spidey again this week, and this week we had to all go to the movies, although some went last week, to see Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm Frank Gaffney. Here is Amy Goldman, drinking but not eating. Yes. Joel Fenster, of course. And there's no thing in the back. It's a red Solo cup. What is that?
The same as last week.
I was too tired to
Look for
pull
something.
out the Tom Holland figure. So
All right. And Mark Wotit Skartner, no background.
Sunday morning.
Everybody's failing today. And Annie King.
At home.
And our special guest, Bill Warnicki. He's happy to be here. So, Joel, brilliant idea to watch all the Spider-Man movies before we got to this one. Was that your idea?
I believe it was.
Because you usually do that, though. You usually do that, like a new Bond movie comes out, you watch all 42 of them.
Right.
And then watch the new Bond movie. So, and of course, to all of our 5 watchers, there's going to be spoilers here. So if you haven't seen the movie, I don't know if you should watch this because we're going to discuss it. And if you haven't seen it yet, what in the hell are you waiting for? Go see it. Okay, so this movie actually I want to say this was a lovely Christmas present for all of us, I feel. Because we watched the other movies and we were all ready for this. And I think the inspiration actually must have come a little bit from Into the Spider-Verse, don't you think?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So they were like, oh, wait a minute. We can have more than one Spider-Man? So, but you Spidey comic lovers, did this happen in the comic books? Where there were other Spider-Men all together, like 3 Spider-Men?
Not that I recall, because I don't know, but I'm sure it did at some point. Put it that way, but I have no idea.
It's probably something that's happened. It's probably something that has happened more recently in the comics.
When you weren't reading anymore.
Yeah, and DC was really known for their multiverse before, Marvel started kind of glomming onto
the
that
idea.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say stealing it, but
all right. So this movie starts where the end of the last movie ended, and but I went to see it with 2 people who didn't see the last movie. So when it started, I guess they were a little confused about what was going on, and but even I had questions like, should I know the blind lawyer guy? Because they seem to know him. Who was that?
In fact, the guy sitting next to me knew his name before he even said his name. I'm like, who is that?
Right. Well, because so if you go back to Marvel's Netflix TV shows, that's Daredevil. Matt Murdock, the lawyer, is the blind superhero known as Daredevil.
And was this also the same actor that played it in the TV show?
Correct. Yes. There's been, since the Netflix shows all got canceled, there's been a lot of rumor and speculation as to what Marvel was going to do with those characters once they got the rights back. And thankfully, it seems like they're kind of, I don't want to say picking up where they left the characters on Netflix, but at the very least, bringing those actors back for those characters and not contradicting anything. I mean, there's nothing in this
that happened in the TV show.
Right. Yeah.
Well, but what I thought was really cool was when the brick came through the window and he caught it, but Spidey was also like, I'm getting it. Oh, you got it. Okay, good.
Yeah. And honestly, it's just it's a neat thing for the fans. I mean, let's face it, Matt Murdock has no bearing on the plot whatsoever. It's a cameo appearance.
Right.
He doesn't really do a lot. And it's not like Spider-Man, Aunt May, and Happy know that Matt Murdock is Daredevil. They just hired a lawyer.
Right. But it was an Easter egg that was lost on me.
Yes.
I know. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I was like, okay, we must. Because he was so specific, I thought this must be somebody.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's really funny because Kevin Feige went on the record like a week before the movie came out saying that if Daredevil and Matt Murdock ever come back into the MCU, it will be played by Charlie Cox. And then a week later, but we don't know when that's going to be yet. And then a week later, Charlie Cox is on screen as Daredevil.
Yeah.
There's some other timing issues that relate to other characters from those shows that have also just recently reappeared. So
Okay, so then, so this is the third Tom Holland movie, and of course, we all hope he's not done being Spider-Man. I'm sure it will go on. And so Spidey goes to Doctor Strange to have him create a spell to help people forget that he is also Peter Parker. And then he interrupts him several times, and the spell ends up summoning people who actually did know that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Like, am I right here? Is that right?
Yeah,
That's the whole premise.
The forgetting spell.
right.
And so Doc Ock shows up, and but it's at a point from that movie where he's still being controlled by the arms, so he's pretty cranky. And then Green Goblin. Really, how brilliant was that they got everybody to come back? Who are we missing?
nobody important.
Yeah.
Well,
the only villains,
the
I think
supporting
that
characters.
Yeah.
The supporting characters we're missing, like
Well,
the other
yeah.
MJ and the other Aunt Mays and stuff like
Right.
that. But
Yeah,
otherwise,
but
There's no room for them in this.
yeah.
right, agreed.
And the other Hobgoblin is the only other person, but they already had Green Goblin, so they couldn't really bring him in anyway. So.
Yeah, they-
All right, so
We're missing Harry Osborn from the Amazing
I-
Spider-Man
Right.
2.
Well, that's the other
I did
Hobgoblin.
think,
That's
is he
what I was
gonna
saying.
show up? That would have
Well,
been nice.
technically, you're also missing Harry Osborn from Spider-Man
Oh,
3 when he
yeah,
was the
'cause
Goblin. You're
he
also
knows.
missing the Eddie Brock of Spider-Man 3 and Venom. You want us to go further? You're missing Paul Giamatti.
We're not
Rhino.
really missing Venom. Okay.
We're not missing any of them.
So then we see the Green Goblin, and he brings them both to the lair where the lizard is already there. How did the lizard get there?
They said in the dialogue that I think Doctor Strange was in the sewer and found him in the sewer and just brought him there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like he didn't want to be in the movie that much anyway. Even when they showed him, he's like, I'm here. This is me. Okay, so then Ned, now we're starting to see Ned, who lost weight, obviously, has had some sorcery in his family. And so where's that going? Because when he does that handshake and then he gets that spark, we're like, oh. And then Electro and Sandman come, but I guess Jamie Foxx didn't want to have to go to the geeky makeup every day. So they were like, no, you could just be Jamie Foxx. Don't worry about it. Nobody will care. We'll put in one line that says, oh, you're not geeky anymore, and that will cover it.
Yeah.
And then Spidey and Doctor Strange fight over that cube thing. The Tesseract?
Yeah,
No.
sure.
No, it was the spell. It was the spell
That
that
spell
had
was
been
in that
contained.
cube. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Spider-Man, of course, which we love too, is convinced that he can cure everybody before he sends them back. How sweet is that? That's Spider-Man right there. And then it happens when Ned uses the sling ring and he finds Andrew Garfield comes out. And I really felt like, and in our theater there was maybe 40 people. It was like pretty crowded for a Monday afternoon, but it is Florida, so that's when people go to the movies. And then they applauded when Andrew
Yes.
Garfield came out of the thing. They're like, oh.
In my theater too. And my theater was full of teenagers and barely 20-year-olds who I would expect be like, stop clapping, mom, stop being a nerd. And they were the ones clapping. So it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And
I
he
think by the
arrives.
time I saw it, which was this past Friday, everybody knew.
Yeah.
And there were like 30 people out of a 200-seat theater, and everybody, tittered, but nobody was like shocked at all. And I hated that I knew that they were both going to be in it too.
Right. And not shocked so much as pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
That's why we decided to go on Monday, because I was like, I can't wait. This is all these stupid shit is coming out and I want to go and have fun.
Yeah.
But and so Andrew Garfield actually shows up in what I think is my favorite Spider-Man costume. I think it looks the most like a normal Spider-Man costume. And I think Andrew Garfield really does redeem himself.
He was fabulous.
Yeah.
Especially when he was crying. He was
Well,
chef's kiss.
Yeah, I mean, I liked his performances in the other movies, but he was fantastic. Like all
Yeah,
three,
this
I'm going to
was
say all
like,
three of
okay.
them were fantastic. in
All
this.
three were
Yes.
terrific, yeah.
Toby as well.
it
I
was
love
like
Toby.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was like he had something to prove here. Like he's like, I could have had a third movie.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Ned tries again, and Tobey Maguire shows up. And while they did de-age Alfred Molina, who's 68 years old, they decided to leave Toby looking every bit of 46.
But they
Hold on,
referred
hold
to
on.
that. He said
Yeah.
I
that.
love that part. That
Yeah,
to me,
I
that
thought it was
he
great.
reminded me of the Peter B. Parker or
Yeah.
even regular Peter Parker from what we just saw last week.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
seems so, and I feel like he wasn't acting. He just seemed like as a person, he seems like he's aged and matured. I loved Tobey Maguire as the Spider-Man. I loved he was less awkward and geeky, but more
Right.
just into himself. I don't know.
Right.
I loved him.
Agree.
No,
Yeah,
again, exactly into the Spider-Verse because he had lived 20 something years as Spider-Man. Okay, and then they talk about the vengeance thing, which I thought was great too. That Garfield says he resorted to vengeance after he accidentally killed his MJ, which was pretty great in that movie. And then Maguire tells about his vengeance when Uncle Ben died. And it's great how all three take their great responsibility to heart. And like it's one of the constants between the three of them. That was really, really nice. And and I loved it when the two later Spider-Men were so amazed that the spider webs actually came out of his arm. They're like, how does that?
Yes,
What?
love that.
How does that work?
Love that. But if you remember, when Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire first shot each other with the web, I don't remember what the reasoning was. He shot out of his arm. He wasn't wearing a costume and nobody noticed it. I was like, oh my God, they're going to notice it. And they didn't notice it for another hour later. So
Yeah, that was very fun. Very
Yeah.
fun. And then the big showpiece on the Statue of Liberty. And why is the Captain America shield on the Statue of Liberty?
Why not?
yeah, why?
They were redesigning it for whatever reason because Steve Rogers
Honor
of
is
Cap.
on, and it's
putting
the
his
honoring
shield?
Cap. He
That's
gets a
a-
musical and put on
That's
the
of Rogers the musical. Sure.
Yeah.
Tie-in promo.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you watched the first Hawkeye, Amy?
No.
That's what she's referring to, Rogers the musical. That's from Hawkeye. All right, so then, and also great that Tobey Maguire still had his back problem,
Love that. Love
great.
that.
right? And Jamie Foxx mentions he thought Spider-Man was going to be black under the mask, and he is, because Miles, what's his name?
Morales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a little preview for Spider-Verse 2, I think.
Oh, wow.
And so, and again, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man gets to redeem himself by saving Tom Holland's MJ. And he corrected it by not using the web, but actually catching her instead. He's like,
Yeah.
must have been thinking about it for years. If I had just caught her instead of using the web, she'd be alive right now.
Yeah, that was great.
And then Doctor Strange decides the only way to stop the madness is to complete the forgetting spell, which makes some pretty poignant moments between Spidey and Ned and MJ.
Yeah.
And it was funny that it was the Peter Pan coffee shop because, you know, he doesn't grow old. And MJ is still wearing the necklace, but the Band-Aid on her forehead, so sweet. And then the coffee cup with, "We are happy to serve you." So our little Peter, Tom Holland Peter, has grown up now too, and he realizes, okay, this is my job now. It was great, loved it, but I have a little, I don't really have nits to pick because I only saw it once, and you know, when I watch it, I'll stop it and be like, okay, I'm writing this down, and that looks ridiculous, whatever. But it's hard to do that when you're in a movie theater. And I feel like I need to see it again before I can properly rate it. So I'm going with, again, a very enthusiastic 3.5 stars, but I think it might be a 4-star movie, but I need to see it again to make sure that. So I don't award 4 stars just watching a movie once. Sorry. All right. So what do you think, Mark? Do you agree with me?
I do. You said a lot of the things I was going to say. I loved it. The first half hour to 40 minutes was a little bit too slow for me. And I get it. They have to set it up, but they didn't really need any exposition because it started right when you watched right from the last movie. So it dragged a little bit. And I did find the way that how he kept interrupting, it was a little,
He interrupted like 5 times.
I know it was a little, it's like, oh, we get it. This is how it has to happen, but it was a little dumb.
Oh, but come on, when he said happy, and Benedict was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm getting annoyed or whatever it was. It's adorable.
It was like it's like we're telling, as if we're all idiots. We're telling you how this is going to happen. We get it. So that was a little dumb, but that's really just me, nitpicking. I did love it. I also I loved when both Spider-Mens appeared. We already knew a lot. I knew that they were going to show up. I knew that the villains were going to show up, but I did love, like you said, Frank, that they got everyone back in there. I thought it was a great use of Spider-Man's spider sense, so how he could tell that something was off. And in the comics, there was one storyline where he went blind a little bit, and he and Daredevil, as to reference Joel, Daredevil showed up, and they were kind of buddies in the comics. He showed up and helped Spider-Man use his spider sense as radar, which is one of the powers that Daredevil has because Daredevil is blind, so he has kind of a radar. So I thought that was kind of cool how we kind of just walked out like something's off. I don't know what, but something. And then it was like, oh, Frank, you're the bad who's bad. So that part was cool. May dying, I was okay with it. It for this role, for this movie, it was good.
And she had to tell him the great
Right.
responsibility.
he needed-
That was a great, yeah, exactly. I don't know. I feel like I already said
Hey,
everything I
who
was
is
going to
Uncle
say.
Ben in this one?
There is no Uncle Ben.
There is
Oh,
no
there was
Uncle Ben.
Ben.
In fact, if you notice,
Oh,
at the
so
end
it's
of
the
movie-
whole Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben thing. They got rid of him. No.
If you noticed at the end of the movie at May's graveside, there is no other tombstone
Yeah.
around that says Ben.
Yeah, I
Parker.
noticed they also put flowers in front of the date so you wouldn't see that she was only 45 or whatever.
Right.
And that's the thing, and they mentioned that too when the other two Peter Parkers showed up the first time meeting our Peter Parker. They all kind of, like you said, that I lost Gwen Stacy, I lost Uncle Ben, and he didn't reference anything about his Uncle Ben because there is none. So it's just a different universe. But I'm not going to talk much. I enjoyed the second half of the movie was 4 stars. The first half was 3.5, 3.25. So I'm, like I said, 3 3/4 for me. I cannot wait to see it again though when it comes on Disney Plus.
Aim?
As always, I just agree with what everybody's saying. And I absolutely
stars.
loved it, but 2 stars. I loved it, 2.5. My favorite line, and there were so many lines I loved, but the one I remember the most is when Andrew Garfield was calling himself lame. And Tobey
Yes.
Maguire was like, no, you're amazing. Oh my God,
Yes.
that's brilliant. Brilliant. I'm giving it 4 stars. There was not a moment during it where I thought, ugh, I'm bored. I don't like this. Every single second, it was just like Shang-Chi. Every second I loved it. And this didn't have dragons. I loved it. I would definitely see it again.
Do you think it was the big screen that influenced you?
It was nice seeing it on the big screen, but I just went in thinking, okay, I'm going to love this movie. And I really did. And I just was never bored. Never.
Are you done?
Yeah, because I don't say anything.
All right. Bill,
Loved it.
Spider-Man is your dream boy.
Loved it. It was everything that I was hoping for. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I would almost give it 3 3/4 because I'm with Mark. I feel like it started a little slow. There's a little bit of exposition and a little bit of, it took a few minutes to get started. There was a lot of that, how bad Peter's life got and how frustrating everything got. And I understand that they wanted to maybe kind of give the impetus for him going to
Yeah,
Doctor
it
Strange.
had to be
and-
set up, sure.
and to do that, but they could have done that a little bit quicker, maybe. Aunt May dying, I went, oh really? They're gonna kill Aunt May, and when she gave him the great power, great responsibility line, I went, okay, there it was.
That's great.
It had to come somewhere. And I read an article about it where a review where somebody said, and I think the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm thinking it's actually kind of fits. normally, you know, we had the Spider-Man origin story, and then we had the Spider-Man origin story again. This movie is kind of now the Spider-Man origin story for what we're going to have to come. It's almost like this 3-story arc was our Spider-Man origin story, just sort of spread out over 3 movies. So you didn't get how he actually becomes Spider-Man, but you're getting how he becomes the Spider-Man that he's going to become. And I kind of liked that view of it. Great moments. I mean, just Andrew Garfield when he first shows up in the house, and Ned's grandmother complaining about them cleaning up the webs. I thought that was hysterical. But just when he first shows up and he's like hanging on the roof, and they're going, come on, well, come on, show us, crawl across the roof. Then we'll really know it's you. And he's like, no, I'm not crawling across the roof. And then she goes down and she says, can you get the cobwebs up in the corner? And then he crawls across the roof to do it. And Tobey Maguire, I was not a big fan of his acting in the first 3 movies that he did. Totally redeemed himself for me in this movie. I loved him. Absolutely loved him. I will go on record as saying I really liked Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man in this movie. And maybe it was a lot of what you said, Frank, where, you know, they aged him and he actually played every bit the older sort of elder statesman Spider-Man, the Peter B. Parker or whatever. And I loved the relationship between the 3 of them. That moment at the end where our Peter is going off to say goodbye to MJ and to Ned and to everybody, and the 2 of them just with their arms around each other. When we found out that, you know, Toby's Peter isn't going to die, you know, he just got stabbed in the back. I thought that was a great moment. You could see they loved. I really felt like the actors, you could see like that camaraderie of like the 3 of them playing Spider-Man.
Yeah, because it resonates in that way, because the 3 of them have this shared experience that nobody else will have.
And they got a chance to actually do it all together on screen. And I thought that was really cool. And that was actually probably one of the big
Joel just sneezed on the truth.
Yeah, sorry.
And that's it.
And I agree with you, Bill. And I did find it funny how they try to differentiate themselves. All right, you're number 1, number 2, number 3. And I'll be honest, that was one other little nit to pick. It was confusing when they were all fighting at the Statue of Liberty. I didn't know who the hell was who. I was like,
it was a little hard to tell which was which, but
yeah, I don't think it really mattered.
Yeah, I didn't care.
But
well, it did. Hold on. It did matter because they each kind of conquered a person on purpose. Like Andrew Garfield got Max, you know, Electro on purpose because that was his guy that he had to get.
Yeah,
but I didn't know it at the time.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, this movie is absolutely a Spider-Man fan's wet dream come true.
Yeah.
Because exactly that. We watched all those 5 movies, and then here we are. Everything came to this terrific payoff. Anne, what did you think?
I have no problem giving it 4 stars on a first viewing. So 4 stars. I didn't find it slow at any point. 2.5 hours went like that for me. I loved every minute of it. There's a lot of great parts of crying and stuff, you know, and laughing. I was just like, I was so sad at the end when he had nobody, but I guess that's what it has to become, you know, for it to move on and stuff. But I was just so sad. I was like, he has nobody now. You know, the others still had Aunt May and now he has nobody. So
that's when he becomes Peter B. Parker.
Hopefully he doesn't gain all that weight, but but yeah, no, it was great. And you know, you guys have mentioned all the great parts and everything. Was there any nits to pick? I don't think I like Jamie Foxx as much without his sad sack kind of character. Or he was
nerdy guy.
Yeah. So
that didn't bother me because I remember saying how overly done. I can't think of the right word. That
I said it was like a character from In Living Color.
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
You know, I just felt like the others maybe had some remorse or something, and then I didn't feel that as much from his character. But yeah, I loved it. I would go see it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The banter, all the banter scenes between the 3 of them were written brilliantly.
Yeah.
They were just so fun.
The scene where they were comparing different crazy villains that they fought.
And Andrew Garfield was like, I fought a guy in a rhinoceros suit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So
Which
the-
again made him sound so lame.
Yeah.
the
It
one
was pretty
thing,
lame.
one thing Danny said that was funny, but only if you've seen My Cousin Vinny, was when they said to him, "You need a really good lawyer." He thought Joe Pesci was going to walk in.
That would have been good.
That
Yeah.
would have been funny.
Cut
That would've been
two.
funny.
That's funny.
Or
Yeah,
having,
and like I said, I went with two other people, Anthony being one of them, and he loved it too, even though he hadn't seen any of the other movies really. So
I think it stands
was a fun
alone. I think it's
movie.
better
Yeah.
if you've seen them, but it could stand alone easily.
right.
But someone did ask me who's not, didn't really watch this type of movie, like, how many movies back do you have to go to like watch this one? Do you have to watch everything? You know, all the Tobey Maguires and the Andrew Garfield and the Tom Holland's ones to
I hope you said
enjoy this
yes.
one?
I
I
mean,
said, you have to go back pretty far because it's so much better knowing all the little things.
there's a lot of in jokes and just inside information that I think you'll get a lot more out of if
Right.
you've seen the other characters and you've seen how all that ends. I mean, you know, when Doc Ock first shows up and he says, "Where's my machine?" You know, if you've seen that Spider-Man 2, you know exactly what he's talking about.
Right.
You know,
And the casual viewer will be like, "What machine?
Right.
What's he talking
Yeah.
about?" And
But it
I
doesn't hurt.
I did send around that article. I'll post it with the review from the Hollywood Reporter, and it said all the Easter eggs. Joel took exception to the phrase, but it wasn't. You know, some of them were not Easter eggs at all, but very obvious connections to other movies. But that phrase is overused. But it was fun to read all of the things that were connected to other things. That was very fun to see how much. Again, this movie was made by people who love Spider-Man and watched all those movies and just funneled it all in their brain, and it all came out here. So it was
Yeah.
great to see all those little things in there that referred to other things in the other movies. And right, if you know all that, you pick up on some of those things, but if you know none of it, it's great to read that kind of trivia.
Yeah.
Right, Joel?
Exactly.
It's your turn.
1 star.
Ah, loved
No,
it. 1 star.
Loved it. 1 star. No, it's I'm vacillating between the, can I give it 4 stars on a first viewing, or do I drop it to 3.9 until I see it again, kind of thing? It's
Well, Joel, in reading your Facebook post about it,
uh-huh.
you said it was one of the best MCU movies of the whole 27 we watched.
I would agree. I would say that. I
You
did say
agree with yourself?
I agree with myself. You know, everybody has said just about everything you could possibly say. It for a 2.5-hour movie, it moved. It never felt long to me. It just kept going. The characters all felt like they picked up right from where they left off. There was nothing, and even the minor changes they made in some of the villains, like, you know, with Electro, he doesn't look the way he did. They at least gave you a half-hearted explanation that you're kind of like, yeah, that works for me, I'll keep going. You know, and I loved that. And I know nobody's really mentioned Willem Dafoe returning as Norman Osborn, Green Goblin. I really liked him in the first film. I liked what they did with him flashback wise in the other 2 Tobey Maguire films. They really just went to town with him here, and I loved the fact that they finally got rid of what I felt was just a stupid Power Rangers costume and pushed it closer to, you know, what he looks like in the comic books without making it look like a ridiculous comic book outfit. But he was still brilliant, and Alfred Molina was still brilliant, and you know, I just really I'm looking forward to seeing it again. You know, we actually joked about, should we run out to the movies and go see it again right now? And no, but once the theaters was enough. That may have been where we got COVID from. I don't know.
But it was
anyway,
worth getting it.
It was worth, if that's what gave it to us, it was worth getting it. Yeah, you know, there's lots of little little fun things.
I could
Yeah.
imagine Joel sitting in the theater, geek is smiling the entire time. Every
Pretty
time
much.
something happened, he was like,
It was-
"Oh."
It was a balance between that and the person sitting next to me talking to the movie and kind of squeezing his water bottle
That was
and
your
making
son.
noise. I know that was my son.
Ha!
I said to-
That's
so
why
I
you
can't-
gotta go to these things by yourself. Nobody
No, I
bothering
love
you.
seeing. I love seeing it with my kids because I was sitting next to Malcolm, and as much as I'm complaining about the noise, it was fun watching his reactions to things at times, and more
Take him the
important,
second time.
yeah. Duncan is a huge Spider-Man fan, and he loves Spider-Man, and the fact that he really wanted to see this in the theaters. He's been very hesitant about going
First time
back in
ever.
public to do anything, and we were really proud of him for going. He almost hesitated at the last minute, and he loved it. It was great watching his reactions.
And now Duncan is on the ceiling up. I see him up there right now.
Receiver.
There he is.
There he is. Yeah, he's probably still asleep. But yeah, one of the things I'll mention that I don't think anybody would notice, end credits wise, something you can notice during the end credits. When you get to the special thanks, you'll see them mention a lot of comic book artists and writers, and it's movie specific based on where they've kind of, I don't want to say stolen, but been inspired by certain stories for that movie. So at the end of this movie, you'll see names like J. Michael Straczynski mentioned because of his One Day More storyline, which was something that, the Spider-Man basically made a deal with Mephisto. It was a Marvel villain that's constantly being rumored to show up in the MCU at this point, to make everybody forget that undo his marriage to Mary Jane and make people forget that he is Spider-Man at that point. So and there's a lot of little other people mentioned as well for other storylines that were inspired, that used to inspire the movie. But yeah, great movie. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. So
I was sitting next to a couple, it was funny, I think it was the largest theater in the theater across the street from me. So they're like 200 or 300 seats. There were maybe 30 people, and you have to pick your seat when you buy your ticket. And the couple sat right next to me. It was half the theater, most of the theater was empty. Right there. So it was a lot of fun listening to the boyfriend going like this and freaking out. That's Matt Murdock. And the girlfriend was like, okay, honey. It was so much fun. So much fun. That's Tobey Maguire. It was great.
Yeah, but you were probably sitting right in the middle of the theater, so they wanted to be in the middle too.
Yeah, I had a good
Yeah,
seat,
so I would have done the same thing, sat right next to your ass.
Well, like Joel said, it was worth getting COVID over. Frank, please put that quote in your commentary tomorrow.
Yes.
Worth getting
Agreed.
COVID. Joel
We're
Fenton.
getting COVID.
Yeah, I went by
Um,
myself. We could have socially distanced, and I had people on either side of me.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
You sat in the middle.
Yeah.
All right. So all right, so we all agree we love this movie. And
Oh, and De La Soul song, the magic number, the first song that plays during the credits. I had to come home and listen to it 3 times. I loved that song. over the
3
credits.
times.
3 times.
Is that who that is? Is that De La Soul?
Yeah. Because while I was reading the credits, I said I have to see who sings this song.
Yeah.
Loved it.
no idea. All right, so everybody done now?
Wait, are you gonna mention the Tom Hardy mid-credit scene?
Stop
Frank
jumping
left.
ahead.
Doesn't Frank leave at this point during the credits? He's
No, we
things.
waited to see the after credit sequence.
Did you understand what that was?
I had to look, and it said that Tom Hardy is now going to be Tom Holland's Venom. I don't know. What was Venom? Venom was what's his nuts
Black.
from that 70s
Neo.
show, right?
Yes.
Topher Grace
Topher
played
Grace.
Yeah.
Eddie Brock, who became Venom in Spider-Man 3. And then obviously they had Venom. They've had 2 Venom movies now with Tom Hardy as him, and he's kind of in that same Spider-Man Sony universe. It's not really in the MCU, whatever.
Yeah.
But this brought him in, just like they did with everything else in this movie. And that was how you saw it. He left a little bit of the black
Yeah.
The black
alien
goo
there.
there.
So that's how it's going to happen, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't
And that will be
necessarily.
the next Spider-Man movie?
Well, they don't know what the next Spider-Man movie is going to be. There's going to be another one, obviously, but and we don't know that it's going to be Tom Hardy. I mean, it'd be stupid not to be. But
Yeah.
is there a Tom Hardy?
Yeah, because he's already
in-
grown up, so
Well-
why wouldn't he continue to be Spider-Man?
Well,
Well, no,
my take, my sorry,
Go
yeah,
ahead,
my take on that was that, well, it could be, yeah, it could be Tom Holland. Whether or not it's Tom Hardy as Venom, it could be anybody at this point, because my take on the way that was that he's another person that knew, like, he zapped out like the rest of the people that didn't know that he was Spider-Man zapped out, or that knew that he was Spider-Man zapped out. So,
So he was Venom in 2 movies where there was no Spider-Man?
Correct.
right.
I didn't see any of those.
It's the Sony Spider-Man universe that they've been trying to
Right.
build, which was, they were going to build off the Andrew Garfield movies originally.
Right.
So,
And you
I
know,
was-
when I think of Tom Hardy, I think, who could play Tom Hardy? I think Topher Grace.
well, in the comic books, that character, Eddie Brock, was supposed to be somewhat of a Peter Parker sort of, not an analog, but they were competitors, and Peter always kind of got the better of him. So that
Right, I
when
mean, that's
Peter
the way we
lost-
saw it in
and that's
the other
and that's
movie.
how
Yeah.
that's how, you know. So when they picked Topher Grace to play opposite Toby, it was because they are kind of similar.
Yeah, it made sense. Yeah, it made sense. But Tom Hardy is older and manlier. and-
Right. Well, the new version of Venom had nothing. That version of Venom that Tom Hardy is playing had nothing to do with Spider-Man. Spider-Man was not involved in him becoming Venom in any way, shape, or form.
But
But
one-
now they're
Until
kind of
now.
having that.
But since it's really just a piece of the black goo that got left behind,
Right.
theoretically anybody could be Venom. And in the comic books, there are other people who have been Venom.
Yeah.
The one I'm specifically thinking of would be Flash Thompson. So,
Right.
he's
Flash
an
Thompson,
established-
who wrote the
Yeah,
book Flashpoint.
Yeah.
Flashpoint,
No.
yeah.
Flash
I thought he
Thompson.
was an author.
Yeah.
He wrote the book in the show.
Yeah, I know he wrote the book in the show, honey.
Wow.
Anyway, one other thing I forgot to mention is at the end of the film, when Doctor Strange is redoing the spell to make it work, and there are other people breaking through, you could see silhouettes of other Spider-Man villains. There was definitely a comics accurate Rhino in there. The Scorpion was in there. It was kind of.
I
I'm sure
saw pictures, but I had no idea how they related to anything.
that's
That's
what
interesting.
those are Easter eggs. Those are
There you
actual
go.
Easter eggs.
Those are Easter eggs.
Yeah.
All right, so okay, great. If you've been watching this long, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you're celebrating. And
Yeah, wait a
now
minute, what about the end
Wait,
credits?
what about the end of the end credits?
Just
Oh,
the
I
Still
trailer.
coming left.
Taylor.
I
Oh,
didn't
it's the-
stay that long.
It was the doc. It's the
It was a trailer for
Doctor
Doctor
Strange
Strange.
trailer, basically.
Yeah, that's all it
You
was.
can go online
Oh.
and see that now.
There was a
Yeah.
multiverse trailer at the end.
Yeah,
Doctor
it's
Strange.
the same trailer that they released like right after the movie came out.
Oh, okay. I did not stay that long. When okay, so now we are going to celebrate an entire year of being this little movie club with some guests on occasion. Bill. Can you believe it's been a whole year already? So
Woo!
now we've decided to do a new format where each of us will suggest a movie for the others to watch, and some of them will be pretty torturous for some of us. Yeah. So, but we're still going to include the MTU and the MCU as they come along. So, but next week, so we are going to watch one of the movies I picked for the group to watch, which was a big hit in 1983 called The Big Chill. Some of you older people may remember that movie. Oh, what was that?
I don't know, not me.
I
Oh,
mean,
that
of
was me.
All
That was
right.
my phone.
course, it's the
Well,
IT.
thank you all for watching. Happy New Year, everybody. And
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New
we'll
Year.
MCU next week.
And
Next
also with
year.
you.